Hello friends, I am Professor Venkatama PR, Assistant Professor of English, Department of Collegiate and Technical Education, Government of Karnataka. Presently I am working at Government First Grade College, Gudipandi. I welcome you all to this language English class of the 4th semester BCom of Bengaluru North University. Friends, let us come to the contents of this session. In this session, we are going to learn the definition of a novella, and then we are going to learn the difference between novella and novel, and the characters in the novella, and also the introduction to the characters in the novella. At the end, we will sum up the plot. Friends, now let's move on to the definition of the word novella. Novella originates from the Italian word novella, which means new. A novella is a short novel, that is, a narrative prose fiction whose length is shorter than that of most novels, but longer than most short stories. In literature, a novella is a type of prose fiction which is shorter than the full-length novels and longer than short stories. The novella is a common literary genre in several European languages. The English word novella derives from the Italian novella. It is a feminine of novello. There is no official definition existing regarding the number of pages or words necessary for a story to be considered as a novella or a novel. US-based Writers of America defines novella's word count to be between 17,500 and 40,000 words. It's a well-structured yet short narrative, often satiric or realistic in tone. Friends, now let's move on to the difference between novella and novel. Novella is said to be having fewer pages and words are lesser when compared to the novels. The more obvious difference is that novellas have fewer subplots and conflicts than full-length novels. The main narrative of a novella resembles a straight line and does not use complicated and indirect plot lines or backstories and multiple points of views. Unlike novels, novellas usually do not have chapters. It's mostly concerned with the emotional and personal development of the character, rather than dealing with a larger social sphere and events that usually take place in one place or location. The characters in this novella are all the birds. The birds are particularly seagulls, which are common in the ocean or sea. People would have seen when they visited beaches. Friends, in these characters, we can group those characters as minor characters and major characters. There are some major characters like Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Chong, Fletcher Lind Seagull, Anthony Seagull, Suliwan. The minor characters in this novella are Elder Gull, Kirk Maynard Gull, Henry Calvin Gull, Terence Lowell Gull. These are some of the minor characters. Maybe we will discuss each and every character as a matter of introduction to those things in this session. Yeah, now pass on to the first and foremost The first and foremost character that we are going to study is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a bird. The name itself tells us it is a seagull. Well, this bird is often called John. It's a protagonist in the entire novella. He is often called John by his flag surrounding him. Jonathan is a kind of individual who wants to achieve greatness in terms of flying. Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a unique character in the novella. He is called as one in a million bird. He varies very much from the other members of his flock. He is cooled by his physical limits and is driven by a desire to achieve perfection. Jonathan Livingston Seagull recognizes his potentiality of flying in himself and the ability to fly higher and faster than any other gulls of his flock. His spirit of adventure is more recognizable. And to the unfortunate fact is that his adventure is not recognized by his team, by his clan. The bird's increasing unwillingness to conform finally results in his expulsion from the clan. Jonathan is punished by his clan by the less ambitious peers and sent to live as an outcast. Hence, he flies to the far off cliffs. There, Jonathan meets two gleaming gulls who take him to the realm of advanced gull Chiang, the Elder Gull. This Elder Gull teaches Jonathan Livingston Seagull to see the limits of his body. Soon he develops his skills in isolation and finds a path to a new realm where greatness is celebrated. He learns from the best of his realm. He then returns to share his gifts of wisdom and knowledge with the chunk of young girls in the flight. He brings to the earth what he has learned in space. He is not only the person who got physical education, but also the one who got spiritual education. Jonathan Livingston Seagull becomes a great teacher, but one who is troubled by his growing status as a divine being in the world. One day, Jonathan disappears into the blue sky after passing on his responsibilities to Fletcher, his student. The rest of the flock raise Jonathan's status as a deity and write hymns in its praise. In the end, Jonathan returns to the flock again to continue his teaching. He finds Anthony Seagull, who rejects myths and just wants to fly higher and further. Jonathan then offers to teach Anthony as he sees the same fire of desire in Anthony. His inquisitiveness, motivation, and longing to help others above all else makes him superior to mankind. Thus, in every one of us lives Jonathan Livingston Seagull. One needs to unearth one's potentialities to do miracles in life. Now let's move on to another character. Another important character is Chiang. Chong is also one of the other important characters in the novella. Chong is the most accomplished flyer. In Jonathan's new flag, he is one of the elder gulls. His age does not weaken him like other gulls. However, he has empowered himself more. Chiang becomes Jonathan's teacher in the new realm. He instructs him to find perfection in flight. Chiang encourages Jonathan to stop seeing himself trapped inside the body. He makes Jonathan to think physically fit and recognizes the true place of every gull. He makes him realize the importance of space and time. Chiang's instruction play a vital role in Jonathan's progression and evolution. It is because of Chiang's instruction that Jonathan can navigate enormous distance. Once Jonathan's training is complete, Chiang leaves him with a lesson to try and help others find happiness and peace. A good mentor always mends people into an embodiment of the human spirit. That is how we see the divinity in Chiang. We see another kind of an inspiring character, Chiang. Fletcher Seagull is the first student of Jonathan. And it's best one also. He is a young girl who has almost the same experience as Jonathan. Fletcher is also abundant by his flag like Jonathan and shares the same ambition to fly high and wide. He then makes his way to far off cliffs where he meets Jonathan. Later, he becomes a good friend and pupil of Jonathan. He becomes a flawless flight student because of his strength and skill along with his desire to learn. After hearing the rumors of his being divine, Jonathan leaves the earth and hands over his legacy to Fletcher, who has become his closest confidant so far. Fletcher takes up Jonathan's role as an instructor. Once Jonathan departs, Fletcher soon finds himself worshipped as a disciple of the divinely held Jonathan. Anthony Seagull is a girl with independent thinking. He is a bird who doubts the meaning of life and declines to believe the fervent dogma that glorifies Jonathan. Glorifies Jonathan. Anthony Seagull refused to believe in the myth of Jonathan without evidence. However, he was a person with low esteem for himself. He is troubled by his limitations and decides to end his own life by diving into a sea. Thus, doubtful bird attempts to kill himself by diving into the sea. But he is rescued by a bird by admiring his flying skills. bird who rescued him introduces himself as John. Thus, Bach tries to portray the other side of the indomitable human spirit in his characters like Jonathan, Fletcher, Chiang, and Anthony Seagull. Bach also tries to prove the fact that in the journey of life, one always loses high spirits and esteem at the same time. Some kind of indomitable human spirit arises and boosts the low spirit and esteem onto the volcano. In the end, he is interrupted by Jonathan himself and decides to learn from his new mentor. He lives in the time 200 years after Jonathan has left the earth. Friends, now let's move on to another character. It's called Suliwan. Suliwan, the best mate of Jonathan. When Jonathan reaches the far off cliffs, Suliwan instructs him. He encourages him in his experiment with the flight practices and techniques. He is the guiding star in Jonathan's adventures. He proclaims that in the 10,000 years, Jonathan is the most fearless gull he has mentored. On to another character, it's called Elder Gull. In Jonathan's original flag, he is a Elder Gull. As a consequence of Jonathan's reckless styling with flights, he banishes Jonathan from the flock to the far off cliffs, proclaiming him to be an outcast. Now move on to the another minor character called as Kirik Maynard Gull. Kirik Maynard Gull is a lame gull whose wings are wrecked, and despite his wrecked wings, he wants to be among Jonathan's pupils. He is astonished and able to fly when Jonathan indicates him that he is a free gull. That is how he is specially able gull is. Yeah. Friends, now let us move on to another two minor characters of the novella. That is Henry Calvin Gull and Torrance Lowell Gull. Henry Calvin Gull is said to be Jonathan's students at flight. He is the best flymate of Jonathan. He navigates in different loops. For more details, we have to study the entire novella and we will come to know in depth about this character. Probably that much is sufficient, I feel now. Then move on to the another character, that is Torrance Lowell Gull. Torrance Lowell Gull is an outcast bird who joins Jonathan's flock. He also shares his sufferings in his den. He enjoys his flight with Jonathan. Friends, now let's move on to the plot of the novella. Friends, now let's move on to the plot of the novella, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. The book Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a fable. This fable, as a story, tells the story of Jonathan Livingston Seagull, a seagull who is bored with the daily squabbles over food, seized by a passion for flight. He pushes himself and learns everything he can about flying. His increasing unwillingness to conform finally results in his expulsion from the flock. Now, as an outcast, he continues to learn becoming increasingly pleased with his abilities while leading a peaceful and happy life. One day, Jonathan Livingston Seagull meets two gulls who take him to a higher plane of existence in which there is no heaven, but a better world found through perfection of knowledge. There, he meets another seagull who loves to fly. He discovers that his sheer tenacity and desire to learn to make him pretty well a one in a million bird. In this new place, Jonathan befriends the wisest gull, Chiang, who takes him beyond the previous self education and teaches him how to move instantaneously to anywhere else in the universe. The secret, Chiang says, is to begin by knowing that you have already arrived. But unsatisfied with his new life, Jonathan returns to Earth to find others like himself to tell him what he had learned and to spread his love for flight. His mission is successful. And Jonathan gathers around himself a flock of other girls who have been outlawed for not conforming. His first student, Fletcher Seagull, ultimately becomes a teacher in his own right. And Jonathan leaves to teach other flocks. After several years pass by, Jonathan deeds become source of inspiration for many girls. Fletcher and the rest of the students of Jonathan are revered as saints and are soon put on pedestal. Soon, the normal girls reject flying as the feat of only the chosen few and rather spend time reciting hymns in praise of Jonathan and his disciples. All of the students die one by one. Fletcher is the last one to survive and remains confused as to how girls forget about the only lesson Jonathan ever taught, that's freedom to fly. After Fletcher dies, all the girls stop flying and devote more time to worship the divine Jonathan and its disciples. However, there are a few girls that reject such cult status and focus on flying for achieving happiness and a higher state of being. One such bird named Anthony decides to try the renowned accomplishments of Jonathan for himself. However, while in mid flight, Anthony is interjected by a glorious flyer. This, this new girl is exquisite to look at and can fly effortlessly. Anthony is mesmerized, and the new girls ask Anthony about being a teacher. Anthony is excited to be taught by just majestic flyers. This new mentor is none other than Jonathan itself. Friends, this is all the thing we learn in the part first of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. We shall meet you again in the session 4, wherein we learn part 2 of the novella. Thank you very much.